Everyone, welcome to your weekly edition of Show Me How It's Done. My name is Lauren Urbonis and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. If you cannot tell, it is the middle of summer and I am very hot, so we're going to play around with something that is bright and cheery and reminds me of Greece, because Facebook seems to think that I need to be reminded of the fact that I was there 5 years ago now, which I love. But it makes me want to go back. So let's do something that reminds me of the Mediterranean and play with the Mediterranean Blooms suite. Part of that suite is this adorable Citrus Blooms stamp set in combination with these great dies. Now, 2 dies that are part of this set are kind of the basis of our card today. So if you're wanting to follow along with this one, you do have to have the Citrus Blooms bundle. However, you can still watch and enjoy, and maybe this will prompt an idea for something else if you don't have this, or you might be adding it to your wish list. So let's get going today. I have a very beautiful card here on the left using the paper with these lovely clementines. There is a die in the Citrus Blooms bundle that will cut these out. However, I wanted to go and play with some lemons on today's project, so I went to one of our other pages, this one here, and for whatever reason, we do have a die for the clementines, but we don't have a die for the lemons, so I had to fussy cut those, but believe me, it's well worth it. This entire package is full of beautiful papers that you can use either by cutting out or just as backgrounds. I actually featured this at an all-day retreat back in June because I loved it so much, so I had to make like a billion projects with it. And this just happened to be one that didn't quite make it into the class, but that I really wanted to still show. So we're gonna play with it today. So if you'd like to follow along, we're going to need a card base. I'm going to switch gears and use Boho Blue. This one here, if you're wondering, I used the Daffodil Delight for this colored version, but I want to play with my lemons, which are nicely colored, and I figured yellow on yellow, maybe not the best. So we're gonna go with Boho Blue. This was a little scrap of paper in my bin, so it's going to be a little bit smaller than what I'm telling you, but what I'd like you to cut for the base is going to be 5.5 by 8.5 and do a score mark at 4 1/4. Okay, so when you see me line mine up on the machine, it will be very tight, and I didn't want you to have that same tightness. So for your base, that's what you're going to do. While you're cutting things out, you also need a piece of scrap to cut this nice, beautiful border out of. And so that piece, I'm going to suggest you make 4 inches by 5 1/4. As you can see, this was just a scrap from my bin, and I really like to use all those pieces up rather than cutting a brand new piece, because I knew I could use this one. Last but not least, do you see the inside of my card here? Nice and pretty, something for you to write on. So we're going to grab a piece of white, and that is going to be 2 3/4 by 4. So those are the base pieces you need. If you're wanting to add a sentiment like I've done, you just need a scrap of white. I've made it about 3/4 of an inch, and I cut mine about 3 inches long so that I could fit the sentiment, all the love. But of course, if you have a sentiment in mind that is larger than that, you'll want something a little bit longer. So let's get busy. I'm going to move these things out of my way because the first thing I need to do is to cut my base. I'm using the largest frame die, and you see my fold line here. This is what I'm resting against. So I'm not centering this in there. I'm actually moving my die up so that it's just over top of that fold. That means when I run this through, I'm going to get cuts on the left and the right and the bottom, but the top part isn't going to cut. It's actually going to miss. Try and turn that over. See, I've got my stitching showing on the back. It's going to miss cutting, and that will make my card this shape. Okay, let me show you how that's done. I like that. my video series name. Okay, was not intentional. Here's my cut and emboss machine. I know its plates are very ugly, but that's okay. So we'll rest this on here. I mentioned you should have a bigger piece of paper than I do, because then you won't have this problem. You'll easily be able to get this on. Try to make sure it's even across the top if possible. And then you're putting this plate gently over top and rolling her through. It will be a little thick because you're going through 2 pieces of cardstock rather than 1. So go forwards. This is really awkward. I'm going like sideways on my desk. Sorry, I have to turn. Here we go. Forward and backward. I need my muscles. All right, then when it comes out, you'll be able to take these pieces off. And as long as you haven't moved, you'll have a card. Come on, open up. There we go. The card that opens up like so. There. Now to get the fun, fancy piece right here, that's where your scrap paper comes in. We're going to grab that boho blue piece. I'm just going to do this. We're going to layer it on your board. You will need to use both the frame and the pattern die now. Okay, so where's my die? What I decided to do was I grabbed some masking tape, or maybe these are, I don't know, Post-it note tape. Anyways, something to connect my dies together so that I ended up with an even border of them all the way around. I didn't want it moving on me. And I'm in fact going to just press that onto the paper as well. So there you go. You can see I've kind of tried to make sure that this middle die is centered. I've got a slight gap all the way around, and then I don't want it moving on my paper either. So I'm going to tape that in place. Now, putting my second embossing plate on top, rolling it through again, forward and backward, because you want to get all those details out of here. You might even want to go one more if you're brave. There we go. Now we can move this. And hope nothing's moved on us, so that when we take this out very gently, this might make a mess. We have this very detailed die. If you've got your take your pick tool handy, you might have to sit here and poke out just a few of these finer details, and that's okay. It doesn't take too long. They come out very easily. This die is nice and sharp. Or you can even leave them in if they're the section that's going to be covered up with your piece of fruit, because nobody's going to notice then. But there we go. That's good for me. I'm happy with that. Just set that to the side. And then we need to do a little bit of stamping before we start assembling our card. Okay, so here's my boho blue, and here's my sample. What I did with my sample is I used the matching Daffodil Delight ink with the paper. My boho blue seems to have escaped somewhere. So another way that you can get the tone-on-tone look is to actually use Versamark. So instead of me using a boho blue ink for my background stamping, I'm just going to use a little bit of Versamark ink to add some color. So I've got my nice citrus stamp, and I'm just going to do a little bit of messy coloring in the background. It's very subtle, and to be honest, I probably notice it more than anyone else would, but at least it's there, and I think it looks really cute. Okay, So it doesn't have to be much, you just want a little bit showing in the center. Keep in mind all these edges are going to be covered, so nobody's going to notice those. Keep this handy, or actually, go ahead and stamp on the inside, I guess, while you're at it. Might as well do that at once. Again, just a couple details along the two sides here, the right and the left. So you have just a little bit of a stamped look, okay? And I did stamp on a scrap because you wouldn't want to stamp onto your desk when part of the stamp is kind of coming off. That wouldn't be great. Okay, so this guy can get a little tricky. We need to glue it on, and it is very detailed, but please keep in mind you don't have to have glue everywhere. Just try to pick the main focus points. So those would be some of these nice edges that we want to make sure are attached. So I'm just going to go around and add tiny dots of glue around the perimeter, and then maybe a couple dots on large leaves. Couple points. It doesn't have to be everything. If you had the adhesive like those sticker sheets, you could use those, but it's just subtle. In fact, you don't want everything stuck down because it would kind of take away from the card itself. So keep in mind, we've chopped off the top of this, so we'll line up the bottom first. And it should be the exact same size because remember we used that die. And then in the end, there will be just a tiny bit that hangs over. And you can either just kind of move this to make sure it's straight. I wouldn't trim it because then you'd end up looking awkward from the front. So just kind of move this as much as possible so what you're looking at from the front is straight. There we go. We'll finish decorating the front, we might as well. So the next step is to add your little fruit. And I'm going to pop my lemons up on some dimensionals. Because this is flat, it doesn't matter where I put the dimensionals. They can be anywhere on the lemon and it shouldn't tilt in an awkward way. Maybe my lemons I'm going to do on the opposite side. This card is getting very different. All right. I'm going with All the Love once again, but I'm going to use Native Navy instead of Garden Green. I figured that would work nicer, and I'm going to stamp right in the middle of my piece of paper. And this isn't a die that does these edges like this. We might have had one at one point. But the easiest thing to do is just take your scissors and cut at a slight diagonal, just the same way, on the front and the back. And then you'll get this nice kind of non-traditional sentiment. This guy I'm popping up on dimensionals, but keep in mind, because the lemons are popped up, you might end up tilting your sentiment if you put dimensionals all the way across. So just under the word all is where you're going to put a dimensional. And then we're actually going to put a little bit of tape under the rest of it so it sticks to the lemon there. And it's not going to kind of go flopping all over the place. There we go. Oop, taking the backs off. There we go. All the love. Like so. Cute. And then for this card, I decided I wanted a little bit of twine, so I can wrap it up in a circle like I've done here, or it might look cute to do a little bit of a bow up at the top. Whatever works for you. You're just going to grab some twine and kind of go in a circle around your fingers a few times. That edge off. And then all I decided to do was I'm going to put a glue dot on the edge of this and tuck it underneath. You might want to do 2 glue dots just to make sure both ends kind of have one. But 1 glue dot, 2 glue dots. There we go. So I've made a little circle, and then I'm going to tuck it just underneath here. Might need to lift that up for a second. Kind of poke those into place. Nice thing is once they're back there, you can just arrange them however you like. It's your linen. For gems, there is a great set of Citrus Blooms embellishments. So I chose to use the navy ones on this sample here. I'm just seeing, navy probably would still look good. I could also go yellow or white. I don't even know anymore. I'm gonna go navy still, I think. We'll go a navy one. I like the dark color on here. Let me put you up here on the lemon. That would look cute. Could do that, or I could put it, I guess, on the tag. Yeah, that's better. All right, there's the front of your card. Now onto the inside of your card. If you'd like, you can just leave it blank, but I did think it looked really cute to stamp a little bit of color onto that white piece as well. So if we bring back our scrap piece of paper, and this time you can't really use the Versamark in place. So we have the Night of Navy out. We'll use that. I don't know where my boho blue is. It's probably around somewhere, but I just can't find it at the moment. There, Night of Navy will look great. I want to make sure to give myself some room to write, so I'm not going to cover the whole thing. And I'm just going to attach this with a flat adhesive, seal, tape, or glue. There you go. 1 and 2. So this is fun. It's always interesting to get this one centered. There, that's pretty good. Here's our 2 insides. And there's our 2 fronts. Easy peasy. See, if you have the dies, this is actually a really easy card to do. I would suggest doing maybe 5 of them at once, just so that you're not putting in all of the effort just for one card, but 5 is a good amount. It won't overwhelm you. It'll give you a nice amount of time to play with different colors or different combinations of fruits and whatnot. But I hope you enjoyed this card. If you do, I would really appreciate if you could subscribe to my channel or click the like button on this video. Any comments are more than welcome. I'd love to chat with you. Tell me where you're from, and maybe tell me which one of these 2 is your favorite. Are you Team Clementine with the yellow base? Or are you Team Lemon with the boho blue? I hope you guys are having an amazing summer. I know we are. We're enjoying lots of family time and some camping and road trips and stuff. So I hope you're following my Instagram as well, Lauren Scraplot. I have lots of pictures of what we're up to, and I hope to hear from you guys soon. Bye!